He didn't just insult me. He did it loud, public, right in front of people who probably spent more on lunch than I made in a month. And the worst part? I couldn't say a word back. Because sometimes, the best revenge doesn't start with anger. It starts with silence. Intro it. If you enjoy slow-burn revenge stories where everything builds up step by step, hit subscribe because this one takes its time and then hits perfectly. The late 80s felt slower. Not easier, just slower. No buzzing phones in your pocket. No GPS telling you where to go. No instant messages. If something broke, someone like me had to physically show up and fix it. And that's exactly what I did. The job. I worked tech support for a cash register company. Not glamorous. Not exciting. But steady. And in a resort area, it mattered more than people realized. Because when a register stops working, money stops moving. And when money stops moving, people get angry. Most of my days followed a rhythm. Morning coffee from a chipped mug. A stack of service tickets handed to me by dispatch. And a map, folded, worn, and marked with pen circles and scribbles. Every address meant something different. Some were quiet cafes with polite owners who'd offer you coffee while you worked. Some were chaotic diners where cooks shouted over sizzling grills. And then, there were the high-end places. The other world. You could always tell when you were driving into one of those areas. The roads got cleaner. The air somehow felt curated. Even the silence was different. No noise. No clutter. Just wealth, quiet, heavy, and everywhere. I wasn't part of that world. I was the guy they called when something broke. And I knew the rules. Unwritten rules of high-end service. Be fast. Be invisible. Don't talk unless spoken to. Never, ever make them feel inconvenienced. Even when it wasn't your fault. Especially when it wasn't your fault. And over time, I got good at it. Really good. You learn how to read people. The impatient ones. The polite ones. The ones who look at you like you're beneath them. You don't react. You just fix the problem and leave. A normal day. At first. That day started like any other. I remember the light. Soft morning sun cutting through the windshield as I sat in my truck, flipping through tickets. 1, 2, 3. Routine jobs. Nothing special. Then I saw it. A name. A place. Even before reading the details, I knew. This wasn't just any job. The resort. It sat high up in the hills. Not just nice. Not just expensive. This was the kind of place where, if you had to ask the price, you didn't belong there. I'd been there before, once, and even that one time stuck with me. The drive alone was brutal. Sharp turns, narrow roads, climbing higher and higher until the city felt like it disappeared behind you. But when you got there, the view? Unreal. Like the whole world had been laid out just for the people inside. I looked at the ticket again. Bar printer not working. Simple. Easy. Should have been a quick job. But something about it, I don't know. There was this feeling. You ever get that? Like nothing's wrong yet, but something will be. The drive up. The engine struggled a bit on the incline. My truck wasn't built for elegance. It rattled slightly with every bump, and as I climbed higher, I could feel the pressure shift, not just in my ears, but mentally, because I knew what I was walking into. Places like this didn't tolerate problems, and they definitely didn't tolerate delays. Halfway up, I pulled over for a second, just to check the address again. Not because I didn't know where I was going, but because I wanted to be sure. Deep breath. All right, I muttered to myself. Fix it. Get out. Easy. The entrance alone looked like something out of a movie. Stone pillars. Perfect landscaping. A long, curved driveway where luxury cars sat like decorations. And there I was, pulling in with my dusty service truck. You could feel it immediately. The difference. The looks. Not rude, not obvious. But there. I parked off to the side, where service vehicles were expected to disappear. Grabbed my tools, checked the ticket one more time, and stepped inside. The lobby. Cool air hit me instantly. Clean, crisp, controlled. The kind of air conditioning that tells you this place spares no expense. The lobby opened into a restaurant area, and it was packed. Lunch rush, but not like normal places. No loud chatter, no chaos, just low conversations, soft clinking of glasses, controlled elegance, people dressed like they didn't have a single worry in the world, expensive watches, tailored suits, relaxed smiles. And then there was me, toolbox in hand, work boots on polished floors. That's when I saw him, the manager. You can always spot the person in charge. Not because they look important, but because they act like it. He stood near the center of the room, watching everything, not helping, not serving, just watching. Our eyes met for a split second, and I knew immediately, this guy was going to be a problem. I walked toward him anyway. Professional, calm, neutral. Tech support, I said, holding up the work order. Here for the bar printer. He didn't even take the paper. Just looked at me. Up and down. Slowly. And then, he smiled. But not the good kind. The kind that says, "You're about to regret being here." First crack in the day. He stepped closer. Too close. Close enough that I could smell the faint hint of cologne. Sharp. Expensive. And then, without lowering his voice, he started. Finally decided to show up, huh? Not loud enough to shout, but loud enough that people nearby could hear. I stayed quiet. Professional. Got the call this morning, I replied calmly. Came as fast as I. He cut me off. Yeah. You people always say that. You people. Something tightened in my chest. But I didn't react. Not yet. Because this was still normal. Annoying customer. Bad attitude. Nothing new. But then, he kept going. And this time, he made sure everyone could hear. Cliffhanger ending, stop point. He turned slightly, just enough to face the dining area, to make sure he had an audience, then looked back at me, smirk growing wider. "Let me guess," he said loudly. "Another one of your company's amazing machines breaking down again?" A couple of nearby diners glanced over. Forks paused midair. Conversation slowed. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't about the printer. This wasn't about the repair. He wanted a show, and I had just been cast in it. I tightened my grip on the toolbox, took a slow breath, and looked him in the eyes, because I knew, whatever happened next, was going to decide everything. He thought he was in control. He thought this was his stage, his audience, his moment. But sometimes, the moment you try to make someone else look small is the exact moment everything starts slipping out of your hands. Short CTA. If you like stories where karma takes its time, hit subscribe, because this is where things start to shift. The room didn't go silent, but it changed. Subtle, like a ripple moving through still water. A few heads turned, a few conversations slowed, and suddenly, I wasn't just a technician anymore. I was part of the entertainment. The show begins. The manager straightened his posture, shoulders slightly back, chin raised just enough to signal authority. He gestured vaguely toward the bar area. "Printer's over there," he said, voice still carrying. "Try not to take all day this time." A couple of quiet chuckles from somewhere behind him. Not loud, not cruel, but enough. I didn't look at them, didn't react, didn't give him anything. "Got it," I said evenly, and I walked past him. Internal shift. Inside? Different story. There's a moment, hard to explain, where something flips. Not anger. Not exactly. More like clarity. Because I'd dealt with people like him before. People who needed an audience. People who weren't just frustrated. They needed someone to perform under them. And the worst thing you can do in that situation? React. So I didn't. The bar area. The bar was tucked slightly off to the side of the dining area. Still visible. Still within earshot. But just enough separation to feel like a different space. Polished wood counters. Glass shelves lined with bottles that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Bartenders moving quickly but quietly, trying to keep things smooth despite the backlog. And there it was, the printer, small, unassuming, sitting behind the bar like it didn't know it had just caused a scene. One of the bartenders leaned toward me. Lower voice. "Thank God you're here," he muttered. "Tickets have been backed up for like 20 minutes. I nodded. "Let's take a look." The problem. I crouched down behind the counter, opened the casing, checked the connections, and almost immediately, I saw it. The cable. Not just loose. Not disconnected. Chewed. I paused for a second, tilted my head slightly, looked closer. Yeah. No doubt about it. Teeth marks. Small ones. Jagged. Mice, I thought instantly. Not unusual, especially in older buildings or places with food. Still, something about it made me smirk just a little, because I already knew how this was going to play out. Fixing it. I didn't rush, didn't drag it out either. Just steady, controlled, professional. Cut the damaged section, replaced the line, secured everything properly. Ran a test, the machine word, pause, then, print, 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 print. Tickets started pouring out, one after another. A backlog finally released. The bartender let out a breath. "Man, you're a lifesaver." I gave a small nod. "Just doing my job." But in the corner of my eye, I could already see movement. The manager, watching. Round 2. I stood up, closed my toolkit, and walked back toward him. Same posture, same calm expression. "Printer's up and running," I said. "Just need a signature for the work order." He didn't take the paper. Not immediately. Instead, he leaned back slightly, crossed his arms, and raised his voice again. "Oh yeah, here we go." What was wrong with it this time? Emphasis sharp, tone dripping, and again, people looked. Forks paused. Glasses hovered midair. He wanted it, the answer, the performance, and this time, I gave it to him. The moment, I slowly reached into my bag, pulled out the cable, held it up, let the light catch it, let the damage show. Then, in a clear, steady voice, just loud enough, I said, "Mice." Silence. Not total silence, but enough. Because that word did something. You could feel it. At a place like this? High-end. Immaculate. Controlled. Mice wasn't just a problem. It was a nightmare. The shift. His expression changed instantly. Gone was the smirk. Gone was the confidence. Replaced by something colder. tighter. Not panic. Not yet. But awareness. He stepped closer quickly. Lowered his voice. Let's take care of the paperwork in the back. No audience now. I nodded. Followed him. The kitchen. The kitchen was a different world. Noise. Heat. Movement. Cooks shouting. Pans clanging. Orders flying. Controlled chaos. He grabbed a clipboard. Signed quickly. Too quickly. Didn't look at me. Didn't say anything. Just handed it back. The call. Mind if I use the phone? I asked. He waved dismissively. Make it quick. I dialed the office. Reported the job done. Got my next assignment. Routine. Normal. But behind me, I could hear it. Whispers. One cook leaning toward another. Did he say mice? In the bar. No way. Small. Quiet. But spreading. Leaving. I packed up my tools. Walked out the back. Loaded everything into the truck. The air outside felt different. Cooler. Lighter. I climbed into the driver's seat. Started the engine. And just as I pulled away, I saw it. First sign. A van. Clean. White. With a logo on the side. A pest control company. Driving up. I raised an eyebrow slightly. Fast, I muttered. But not surprising. Places like this don't take chances. Still, something about the timing felt sharp. Too sharp. Second thought. I started driving down the hill, taking the turns carefully. But my mind stayed back there. That shift in his face, the whispers, the speed of that response, and then, something clicked. Not fully, not clearly, just a feeling. Because that van, it wasn't just any company. I recognized the brand. Big. National. The kind of company you don't just casually call and have show up instantly. Unless. Second event, strange. Halfway down the hill, I passed another vehicle. Same logo. Another pest control van. Going up. Now that wasn't normal. Third event, escalation. A few turns later, my radio crackled. Dispatch. Hey, you just left the resort job, right? Yeah. Pause. What exactly did you tell them? I frowned slightly. Printer issue. Cable damage. Probably mice. Another pause. Longer this time. Yeah, they're, making calls. Calls. Multiple. Something in his tone shifted. Confused. Maybe even amused. You might hear about this one later. Realization build. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Now it was starting. That feeling again. Not worry. Not yet. But something was off. Too many reactions. Too fast. Too connected. That manager's face. The immediate shutdown. The rush to move me out of sight. The whispers in the kitchen. The first van. The second van. Dispatch's tone. And then, one final thought slipped in. Someone heard me. Not just anyone. Someone who mattered. Someone who didn't just hear the word, mice, but decided to act on it. Ending, realization moment. I exhaled slowly. Eyes on the road. But mind somewhere else entirely. Because suddenly, that whole interaction didn't feel random anymore. It felt triggered. Intentional. Like something had been set in motion the moment I said that one word. And the strangest part? I hadn't done anything special. I just told the truth. Which meant someone else was doing something with it. Something bigger. I shook my head slightly. Almost laughed under my breath. Because wherever this was going, it wasn't my problem anymore. Or at least, that's what I thought. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It doesn't need shouting or anger or even intention. Sometimes, all it takes is one word, spoken at the right time, in front of the wrong person. The realization, connecting everything. For the rest of that day, I couldn't shake it. Not fully, not clearly, but pieces kept drifting back into place. The way the manager's face changed. Not embarrassment, not anger, something sharper. Controlled damage. The whispers in the kitchen. Too fast, too immediate. Like the word had weight. The vans. Not one, not two, but multiple. And then dispatch. That tone. That pause. That, you might hear about this one later. At the time, I brushed it off. Because that's what you do. You finish your jobs. You go home. You move on. But that night, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, it came back. Over and over. Mice. Such a small word. But in the wrong place? In the right company? It wasn't small at all. The next day. The next morning started normal. Too normal. Coffee. Ticket. Routine. But then, around mid-morning, the office phone rang. Not unusual. But the way the receptionist called my name? That was, "Hey, they're asking for you." I frowned. "Who is?" She hesitated. "The resort." There it was. I picked up the line. The call. Tech support. Silence for half a second. Then, a voice. Different. Not the manager. Calmer. Colder. More controlled. "This is the resort." Pause. "We need to confirm exactly what was reported yesterday. Not fixed. Not resolved. Reported." I leaned back slightly. Printer cable was damaged. Likely due to rodent activity. Another pause. Rodent activity. He repeated it slowly, like he was testing the weight of each word. "Can you verify that?" I saw the damage directly. Teeth marks. "It's consistent." Silence again. Longer this time. Then, "Thank you." Click. No goodbye. No attitude. No emotion. And somehow, that was worse. Around noon, the first ripple hit. One of the other techs walked into the break room, shaking his head. Half amused. Half confused. "You hear what's going on up at that resort?" I looked up slowly. No. They shut down part of the dining area. Pause. "What?" "Yeah. Something about contamination concerns. Inspection teams coming in." My stomach tightened slightly. That was fast. Too fast. An hour later. Another update. This time from dispatch. "They've called 3 separate service companies." 3. Yeah. Pest control. Inspection. Sanitation. I blinked. That's overkill. That's what I thought too. Pause. But apparently someone important made the call. There it was again. That word. Important. By late afternoon, the story changed again. Not just partial shutdown. Full inspection. Guests complaining. Rumors spreading. Someone said a few high-profile diners left early. Another said reservations were being canceled. And then, the line cook. The same one from the kitchen. He called. Not the office. Me. I picked up. "Hey, it's me. From yesterday." I recognized his voice immediately. "You have any idea what you started?" My grip tightened on the phone. "What do you mean?" He let out a short laugh. Not happy. Not amused. "Man, you dropped a bomb in here." The full reveal, revenge plan. He didn't rush. He told it slowly. Piece by piece. "Remember where you said it?" "Yeah." "Dining area. Loud enough for people to hear." "Yeah." Pause. You know who was sitting 2 tables behind him? I didn't answer, because I already felt it. That shift, that click. The CEO. Silence. CEO of a national pest control company. Everything stopped. Mentally. Physically. And not just any CEO, he continued. This guy? He's known for enjoying moments like that. My heart slowed. Not faster. Slower. Because now, it made sense. All of it. Connecting the dots. The immediate reaction. The shutdown. The multiple vans. That wasn't panic. That was pressure. External pressure. He heard you, the cook said. Clear as day. And he didn't say anything at first. Of course he didn't. He just watched. That word again. Watched. Then he made a call. One call. That's when everything started. Chaos intensifies. Over the next 24 hours, it spiraled. Inspections turned into reports. Reports turned into concerns. Concerns turned into action. Not rumors anymore. Official processes. Health standards. Brand reputation. Guest safety. All the things high-end places depend on. Now under a microscope. The manager. And the manager? I asked quietly. The cook exhaled slowly. He's losing it. I could picture it. Perfectly. The same guy. Same posture. Same confidence. Now cracking. He's running around trying to control everything. Snapping at staff. Making calls. Pause. But it's too late. Emotional breakdown. Deep detail. That's the part people don't see. Not the moment of impact, but what comes after. Because people like him, they build everything on control, image, authority, perception, and the moment that cracks, everything follows. He tried to downplay it at first, the cook said. Called it minor, isolated. Of course he did. But then more people got involved. Higher level management, external inspectors, corporate oversight, layers, pressure stacking on pressure. And then, I asked. The cook hesitated. Guests started asking questions. That's it. That's the breaking point. Because once the guests lose confidence, it's over. Acceptance phase. A few days later, it went quiet. Not because it was resolved, because it had moved beyond noise. Handled at a level I'd never see. No more calls. No more updates. Just silence. The twist, respect. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. Not the manager. The CEO. Because what he did was precise. He didn't yell. Didn't confront. Didn't make a scene. He just listened, understood, acted, used the system itself as the weapon. And that takes intelligence, not emotion, not ego, strategy. And I had to admit, I respected it. Chaos fades. Weeks passed. Life went back to normal. Jobs, repairs, routine. Eventually I heard the final piece. Through the same cook. The manager's gone. Just like that. No dramatic exit. No announcement. Just gone. Final reflection. I sat in my truck that evening. Same old seat. Same worn steering wheel. Looking out at a completely ordinary view. And I thought about it. That day. That moment. That word. Mice. I didn't plan anything. Didn't scheme. Didn't plot revenge. I just told the truth. But timing? Audience? Context? Those things turned it into something else entirely. Life lesson. Sometimes, you don't need to fight back. You don't need to raise your voice. You don't need to prove anything. Because the right moment in the right place, in front of the right person, will do more than anything you could force. And people who rely on humiliation, they don't see it coming. Final line. I never heard from that manager again. But I remember his face. That shift. That moment everything changed. And the strangest part? I didn't win. I didn't lose either. I just showed up, did my job, spoke one word, and someone else finished the story. Final CTA. If you made it this far, drop a comment, mice. And if you want more slow burn revenge stories like this, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because the next one might be even crazier.